So for this one, kind of the same thing. Our denominators are the same, so I'll have a 2x. And remember, there's parentheses here and here, so this is going to give me x plus 1. Distribute the minus sign, so I get a minus 5x plus 2. And let's see, 1 plus 2 is 3, minus 4x all over 2x, and there's your answer. And I mean, if you wanted to say negative 4x plus 3, that's the same thing. But that's just as far as subtracting with common denominators. But dealing with common denominators isn't where people have the problems, right? This is not where people have issues. Where students tend to have issues is when you don't have the same denominator. And this is probably where most people developed their dislike for fractions. And it started back in 5th grade. So like if you started with 2 over 3 plus 1/2, like we can't add these, right? Because the only way we can add or subtract fractions is if we have a common denominator. And these aren't the same, right? There's a 3, there's a 2. And there's no easy way to make the 3 look like a 2, and there's no easy way to make the 2 look like a 3. So, we were kind of taught, right, well, find my least common denominator. Well, I always hated that terminology. What I wanted was, okay, I always did better was get these numbers to be the same. And the only thing you're allowed to do is multiply. So if I can't make the 3 look like a 2, well, I can make them both look like a certain number. In this case, I can make them both look like a 6. So this needs to multiply by 2, and whatever you do at the bottom, you got to do at the top. To make this a 6, I need to multiply the bottom by 3, and whatever I do at the bottom, I do at the top. And so it ends up being 4 plus 3 all over 6, and so we end up with 7 over 6. Now, obviously this one wasn't super tricky. The trickier ones are when the numbers get bigger, right? Like if you had, if I had something like, if I had 5 over 8 plus 7 over 12, these numbers are bigger, what's my common denominator? And I guess I could multiply this by 12 top and bottom and this 8 top and bottom, but those numbers are really big. The other thing you can look at and say, well, I can maybe have an easier number to get to is 24, which means I multiply this one by 3 top and bottom and this one by 2 top and bottom. Now my numbers stay smaller. And this is a pain, right? Particularly in 4th and 5th grade. I mean, if you had trouble, if you didn't like doing this in 4th and 5th grade, I agree. I didn't like doing it much either. Now, that's the good news is when you're dealing with variables, I actually think it's easier getting a common denominator than dealing with numbers. But we have to, I'm going to present this in kind of my weird way. And I don't know too many teachers, I don't know if it's been presented this way before. So don't write this down. This is just me, crazy guy talking. So if I were getting a common denominator, I'm just going to put some random thing, 3 over x cubed y to the 7th plus 4 over x to the 5th y squared. And again, don't write this down. This is not the main focus of today, but this is just how I teach common denominators in algebra. So I had a brother. Well, actually, I still do have a brother. He's a younger brother. I'm 6 years older. And what I remember, particularly at Christmas, there's a 6-year gap. So we got different gifts. We very rarely got the same thing. Because one's 6 years older than the other, it doesn't make sense to give both kids the same thing. And you may be less petty than I was, but it didn't really matter what my brother got. It didn't matter how much I got. If I saw something my brother had that I didn't have, there was some part of me, the petty part of me, wanted it. And that's how I teach how to come up with common denominators. See, when I look at these two denominators, right, what I imagine is this is what I have. Right? I have 3 x's and 7 y's. This is what my brother has. He has 5 x's and 2 y's. Now when I look at what my brother has, I don't care that I have more y's. What I do care is that he has more x's than I do. And so what I want, I want to figure out, I want at least what he has. So I want 5 x's. So if I want 5 x's, I need 2 more x's So I'm going to multiply so that I have the same number of x's in my denominator. Now the rules are the same. Whatever I do to the bottom, I have to do to the top, and so I have to do an x squared. The same thing happens with my brother. He looks over, he doesn't care that he has more x's than I do. What he does care is that he only has 2 y's and I have 7 y's. So he wants to have at least the same number of y's. So he wants 5 more y's. And so if I multiply, whatever I do to the bottom, I got to do to the top. And so now what I have is 3x squared over x to the 5th, x to the 5th, y to the 7th, plus 4y to the 5th over x to the 5th, y to the 7th. Now I have a common denominator. Since these denominators are the same, I can go over here and then say x plus 5, x to the 5th, y to the 7th. And on top, I end up with 3x squared plus 4y to the 5th. Now, that's how I teach coming up with common denominators, and it works. I think it works really well when you're dealing with algebra. So it's obvious you didn't need to write this down. Your questions tonight don't look like this. Your questions tonight look like this. So write this one down. I give you 1 over x minus 3 plus 2 over x plus 5. All right. So to add these two things together, I need to make sure my denominators are the same. Now, the rules for getting a common denominator are you're only allowed to multiply. You can't add or subtract. So when I look at this, I see an x minus 3 and this side's got an x plus 5. I need them both to be the same. There is no way I can make an x minus 3 look like an x plus 5. And since there's no way for me to make this look like this, the only way I can get a common denominator is I'm going to multiply this denominator by x plus 5. And of course, whatever you do to the bottom, you got to do to the top. And likewise over here, there's no way I can make this look like an x minus 3. So the only way I can get a common denominator, as I'm going to multiply by x minus 3. And whatever I do to the bottom, I have to do to the top. So now I end up with x plus 5 times x minus 3 on the bottom. On the top, when I distribute that, I get an x plus 5. X plus 5. And when I distribute this, I end up with 2x minus 6. And after I combine like terms, I end up with 3x minus 1 all over x plus 5 times x minus 3. And you can't simplify anything out here. I mean, I guess technically you could put these in parentheses, but usually we don't. All right. Your turn. So if I give you 2 over x plus 4 plus 2 over x minus 2. So now your turn. Get a common denominator and add them.